Hello and welcome to Sorcerer's Workshop, where we are always cooking up something new for you to use in your next D&D adventure. This week, we're talking all about trees. Here are two trees I made. This one that I'm holding right now is a bit more complicated, as you can see, and then the other one over here is a little bit more easier to make, but they're both can be used in different areas of your D&D campaign, and I think they look pretty good. So let's get started. We are going to be using toilet rolls, very hollow, as you can see right through them. Oh, look, there's a miniature. Very cool. And it's gone. Wow, how did that happen? Yes, so of course, toilet rolls. They are, I hope every household has these. Anyway, you just want to snip these in half to get started. So you have sort of a curved sheet like this. Then you sort of want to snip starting at one of the corners, doesn't really matter, a little bit in from it. Snip diagonal, so you have one slightly larger and one slightly smaller sort of shape. They should look something like that. Alright, so you want to sort of curl it, bend it a little bit, doesn't really matter. You just want to have a very basic sort of, trunk sort of shape. Right, grab your hot glue gun and glue straight down that side, all the way down. Give it a good thing. My hot glue gun is, it's alright. And then you want to just glue there. It doesn't matter if it looks a bit awful, because with the other piece, you're going to cover up that ugly join, I guess you could call it, with this piece, and it leaves sort of a nice sort of look. It makes it look a bit more, not just a straight up and down trunk. Just like that. So you want to make sure it really does stick. I think I had 2 tries at this. The first one came undone. So yeah, something like that. It sort of curves slightly. And I don't know if you were paying attention at the very start, but it's sort of, it makes it look nicer in the end, I found. And then just glue that bit to the side like so. And there we go. Something like that, I think. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Alright, now moving on to the branches, because what's a tree without branches? So you want to take sort of squares, rectangles, pardon me, like this, and sort of, I snip them in 2, just so you have sort of a longish sort of thing, and then you want to keep one end sort of straight, and then twist the other end, so just twist it round, twirl it round. It doesn't matter if it rips a little bit, so something like this I've come up with, which, yeah, it looks pretty good. It'll work, basically. So you want to unravel it, stick some hot glue so it doesn't come apart, just like that. Very nice indeed. Alright, and then just twist that up all the way, make sure it sticks, just give it a second before you put it onto the tree. Just like that. Yep, I think that'll work quite nicely. Something like that. Yeah, doesn't have to be perfect, but that's one trunk now in focus that you can see. Alright, then you just want to hot glue it to the tree in any sort of shape or form. So just hot glue it there, just put a bunch so it stays, not too much so it overflows, and if it does, just get rid of the excess hot glue because it leaves sort of ugly lumps. You don't want that. Just add a bit more if it's not quite right. Something like that, I think. So there is one branch on our tree. I won't do the rest because that's just going to be boring for you to watch. So I'll come back once I've finished the rest. Right, there we go. I think it has about 8 branches, maybe less, maybe more, about that. But they just sort of layered on top of each other, the same technique each time, twisted. It doesn't matter if you've got the white side facing out or the coloured side facing out. As you can see, I made a mistake on one of them. As you'll see later, when you paint it, it really doesn't matter. Looks quite nice. I don't know what type of tree I'm making. I don't know, but it will look good eventually, I hope. Because if it doesn't, that's not going to look good. Alright, here I'm just spraying with a 1 part PVA glue, 3 parts water, I believe, just to make sure it's strong when I paint it, it's not being all flimsy. Alright, while that is drying, let's make a base. For this more complicated tree, I guess you could say, we'll make a slightly nicer base. So let me just cut out a sort of circle. It's going to be large size, but it's not a miniature, so it doesn't really matter. Alright, and something like that. Looks good. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's terrain. Nothing is perfect in our world, so nothing should be in this one. Alright, so I don't like the corrugation. It looks ugly. So what are we going to do? We're going to get a little bit of black card. And we're going to go all the way around and then just trim the edges off. Alright, so just let you listen to the beautiful music that I'll put in the background while, while I just put this on. See you in a second. Alright, there we go. As I said, trim the edges off, and now we just have a nice circle-ish sort of shape with that. Alright, just to make it look a bit nicer, what we're going to do is we're going to rub some PVA glue all over this thing, like so, rubbity rub, and then we're going to put a little bit of dirt on it, real dirt that is, just to give it a bit of texture and make it a bit more real. We'll paint the dirt afterwards. Make sure, well, you don't have to, but it's always just, you got to be careful with these things, so make sure you sterilize the dirt. So I've just got a little bit in this container, as you can see. Lovely. It's dirt from my garden outside. So just want to pour it over. The glue will help it sort of stick to that, but you just want to sort of press it down, as you can see I'm doing here. Give it a good press to make sure that lots of it sticks. You don't want it falling off. And there we go. So I gave the same treatment to that one, and as you can see, they are rock hard now. So yeah, they're really quite, look, nothing is coming off that. That's nice and rock hard, and this one is also quite hard. It's a little bit more, not as much as I would like. I would have liked it to be a bit stiffer, but that's okay. It's what it is. Right, on to painting. So we're going to paint the trunk first because we don't have the leaves on there yet. So, you know, let's go ahead with that. For the base of the trunk, I just use, you know, your normal burnt umber, or any sort of brown works, but I just like burnt umber. So yeah, we're just going to put that on there. That was a bit too much watered down, so you don't want to get it too watered down, otherwise you'll see the ugly cardboard color. Well, it's not ugly, but yeah. So you just want to get all the way up there. You see the trunk's looking all right. It's okay if you miss some. This is going to be covered in a lot of leaves and things like that, so it's okay if you miss little bits here and there, but try to get the most of it so it's sort of an overall cover. I'll catch you again once I'm done. Alright, well, while that dries, may as well get onto the base. So we're going to use just a sort of a medium sort of coloured green. It's not dark, it's not light, it's medium. So we'll get a little bit of water in this. Just want to put it all over this base. Don't worry about any other colours. Get in all the crannies, all the nooks. There we go, that's about half done. I think it looks pretty good at the moment. Make sure you go all the way up to the edges. That's a complete colour. And then, there we go. Done. That is dried now, so now we're going to be able to do a bit of dry brushing with a light green and a yellow. So I'll just show with the yellow. I do the same either way. No water for this, literally dry brushing. I'm sure that everybody watching this knows what dry brushing is. So just over it. It's okay if, you know, some bits are a bit lighter than others. You know, you can put the tree over that. So here is the tree, as I said. And as you can see, there's bits that are still a bit white, there's bits which are not quite fully coloured in maybe, but it adds to the look of a tree. No tree is just perfectly brown, or something like that. Anyway, the next step in making this tree is a bit of a wash. We're doing 2 washes, I believe. One of them is a lime green, and you just want to put it on like this and get your finger and smudge it all over the tree. Make it look really nice. Here's sort of a halfway done sort of thing. I'll get my hand out of the way and let you have a look in a second. So it's just to make it look like it has some moss or maybe some lichen or something else, if, you know, this tree is in another part of the world, who knows. But it just to, so it's not just a brown, you know, brown stem, just a little bit. That didn't make a lot of sense now, I know that, but, you know, it looks nice, trust me, it will look nice. So I do it with this lime color, and then I also do just a very small amount with like a yellow, light yellow sort of color. Yep, so I'll just add a bit more. It's a bit hard to see later on, but it does look quite nice once it's done. All right. Yeah, I'm right. Okay, here's the yellow. So once again, a little bit like that, and there you go. That's it, dry. So it sort of just adds a bit here, a bit there. Yeah, I don't paint the underside because that's going to be attached to the base. But yeah, it looks quite nice. Just a little bit of something extra. All right, so there we go. That is the progress we've made so far. We have a tree trunk with its tree branches. Now we are going to do some more dry brushing with this color. This is Burnt Umber, I believe. It's just sort of a earth color, but it looks really nice on trees. This is how I do all my trees, the brown, the sort of the washes, and then this color on the top. This is dry brushing again, just to get the highlights, as it is. It's a term that a lot of professional people use, so I'll use it as well. Just over all of it. You don't really need to do it too much on the branches because once again, they're going to have leaves on them. But it just sort of adds something to the trunk, and when I show you the finished project, you will see that it makes a difference from just the brown and the washes. They're nice, but it just adds a bit more. Okay, here is the base. The base is dry now, and it looks fine. You can see it looks sort of a bit, but as you can see, I got a bit too much yellow in this spot. So let's put the tree on that spot. I think that will look quite good. Also down in the left, yes, the left of it, it's a bit flat. That's okay. We'll add a little shrub or a little bush there or something. So there we go. We'll just attach the tree like that. Don't put it in the middle. Well, you can, but just offset it a little bit. It makes it look a bit nicer, you know, a bit more artistic, something like that. I don't know. All right, just make sure it's rooted in there like a tree would be rooted. Talking of roots, I added some. Just a little bit of hot glue. Just literally just make some roots coming out of the ground. Add a little bit of texture on the tree as well. And then just painted them brown and added the burnt Sumbera or something, whatever the color's called, the earth color, that one, over the top. Yeah, it's looking pretty good, but it doesn't have any leaves. So let's get into leaves. Sponges, that's what we're using, just any sort of sponges. I went to my local hardware store and it had like a massive bit of sponge, so I just get this, just tear it into little bits. A lot of those, as you can see, they were square, so we don't want them to square, so I'll just do one so you can see sort of what to do. You want it not too big, not too small. Keep all the offcuts because they'll be turned into like little bushy, branchy bits. Sort of make it circular. You don't want any straight edges, or at least not too many straight edges, because tree leaves tend not to be straight. So here's an example, nice and circular. And something like that on the tree. We'll do that in a second. Alright, so I did the rest. I did all the main ones, so these are all the largest sort of ones. You see I've sort of got a bit of a hole in all of those just to make it sort of fit on the tree and not look like I just stuck a piece of sponge on a tree, look like it's sort of connected to it in a way. There you can see it sort of loops onto it in a way. You know, you might need to cut some deeper than others. A few of them like go all the way around the branch, so it looks quite nice. Anyway, once you've found the spot where you want the tree, get your hot glue gun, just get a little bit just in that area so it won't be visible, and just stick it onto the tree like that. There we go. Make sure it stays there. Get rid of all the strands. You don't want them hanging on the tree. You want to space the leaves out a little bit over the tree, but not too much. I'll see you once I'm done. Alright, there we go. I stuck all of them onto the tree. Some of them, some of the little pieces are sort of in between branches, because that's how trees are. I typed a tree into Google and it came up with sort of this sort of look. I also, over the top with PVA glue again, just to harden them a bit. And as I said earlier, I did put a little bush down there just to cover it up slightly. But they're yellow and they look like sponges. And, you know, that's not what a tree should look like. So, what are we going to do about that? We're going to paint it. As you can see, I started a little bit just to check that it was the right color. But this is a slightly darker, it's like a turquoise, and then add a dark green is basically what I did for this color, because you want it darker than you would think a tree should be, because we're going to dry brush it, and that really lightens it up. So if you make it too light, it will look strange. So yeah, as you can see, I'm just trying to get that. It's okay if you get a little bit of the green on the trunk or something like that, because once again, you know, it just could be a bit of moss, and you can always just paint over with brown later. That's what I did in some areas where I really didn't want it. Okay, so I'll do it with the shrubs just down the bottom and the sort of the fallen leaves or something like that, but I won't make you sit through the entire painting of the entire tree, because it took me about it took me a good half an hour, and that would make a very, very long video, so we're not going to do that. So yeah, so just sort of layer it on there. Use quite a bit of water, because they're sponges, and sponges in real life, you know, they soak up water. So if you only use a little bit, it's going to be like painting cardboard, like dry brushing cardboard, which would, you know, would take forever. So use quite a bit of water, not too much, not too little though, and then just sort of get on there. Yeah, it looks quite nice, but it'll look a lot nicer once we get the dry brushing in that. So there we go. Get the shrub done. And I think they're looking pretty good. I mean, you know, they haven't been dry brushed yet, so they just look like green blobs. But yeah, I'll catch you once I'm done part of it a bit more. Alright, so there we go. We've done sort of the bottom part, sort of blends in, and we've done the first 3 or 4 sort of bushes at the top. As you can see, it really, even just like this, it makes a difference from that. It just, the paint sort of brings out the detail, and sponges are good because they sort of have little holes in them, which could be like, you know, little holes in the leaves and stuff. As you can see, you just want to sort of, you want to paint all the little, wherever there's sponge, paint it. Even if you can't see it, just paint it, because in the long run, it'll just make a much nicer looking sort of thing. And there we are. I have finished it completely now. There is all the trees. I'll give you a better view in just a second. But that is all painted this green sort of color. The top ones, I put a little bit more water in them, because, you know, they've been bleached by the sun, so they're a little bit brighter than the ones that are lower down. But, you know, you don't have to do that. It's just, you know, what I chose to do. But the next color is a lime, or like a very light green. We are dry brushing once again, so, you know, no water, as you would say. So what you want to do is just really just smack these leaves. They should be, if the paint helps, and I sort of, as I said earlier, sort of sprayed them with the PVA and water mix, so they should be relatively hard, so you can sort of give them a good bash, and they won't take too much of a beating. Also, what you want to do, I don't show you, I believe, but I thought the base was getting a bit dark, so I sort of just added this green to it as well, which sort of lightened it up a bit, and you'll see it at the very end. But yeah, it sort of looks a little bit dark, so I just added this to it. But yep, as you can see, I'm going over the trees now, and here you go. That is it finished. Yeah, I think it looks good. You may think it looks absolutely terrible and may think, oh, what is this guy doing? But it's what my tabletop, you know, that's what I needed for D&D. So I thought, hey, I'll make a tree, and I did. There are plenty better tutorials out on YouTube that you could probably watch, but, you know, it looks all right. If you learned something from this little bit here, drop a like, you know, and if you really enjoyed doing it, subscribe. But this may be a bit too complicated for you. So I made a second tree. That's right, 2 for the price of 1. Price being just a click. So let's get started on that one. And it is made almost entirely from foam. It is a lot simpler and a lot less time consuming. So first we're going to make a trunk. This one is going to look a bit more like a fir tree, a spruce tree, something like that. Something you'd probably find in England or Europe. The colder part of Europe. So to make the trunk, what you want to do is sort of a long, tallish piece, and you sort of want to just make it bigger at the top and sort of other way around. Bigger at the bottom, smaller at the top. So I'm just cutting off a little bit of excess material. Always keep all the extra foam. I've got a little box that I just keep. You never know what it's going to be used for. So yep, So you just want to make it sort of circle shaped. I thought it was a bit wide still, so I cut it down a little bit more. Slice, slice, slice. Very nice. And then cut the corners so it makes a sort of a circular shape. But yeah, I'll show you once we're done. This is just, I forgot to mention, this is just XPS foam that I'm using. Very easy. You can find it in most countries. I am from Australia, so I just find it in Bunnings Warehouse in aisle 4, but depending on where you are, it may look different. This is the color it is in Australia. It's probably purple if you're in Canada, and then white if you're in Europe. I don't know, that's just a guess. But yep, just making it circular, and I'll catch you once I am done. Alright, so here it is. I put little gashes in the very bottom, as you can see, just to make it look sort of how like roots. Here is a base I made. It's really simple because this is the simple tree. We'll detail it later, so don't worry about it yet. With a relatively sharp pen or pencil, doesn't have to be really sharp, just make gashes all over the trunk, which just adds the texture, as you can see. Maybe it's a bit blurry. As you can see, yeah, it just adds a bit of texture, so when we paint it later it's better. Here is the first part of the tree. It is literally take a bunch of foam and make lots of triangle shaped sort of gashes again in it. It's really simple. You know, I'll keep it on screen so you can sort of, you know, give it a little look around. Make a hole in the back, that's where the trunk will go, so, you know, half the trunk's covered. And here's the other half, so I made another one, basically the same way. And yeah, sort of make sure they fit together. They don't have to be perfect because it's foam, you can just cut bits off if they're not perfect. There's the hole again, all the way in, and as you can see, whoop, it fits all the way in. And there we go, that is the tree. But, you know, there's no point having them loose and just sort of holding them there and going, oh yes, complete tree. Let's get some hot glue. So, first we want to sort of pop the trunk in there. So hot glue all that area and stick the trunk in there. You can always just chop the trunk off. It looks a bit like that's a perfect size for this sort of tree. But it might look a bit long or a bit short maybe if you made it slightly differently to me. So, you know, just make it as long as short as it needs. And the next bit, don't put it too close to the edges, otherwise you'll get really ugly sort of bubbles and all that sort of stuff, but also put it close enough because I didn't put it close enough in part of it. And at the top, as you'll see in a second, I'm going to have to sort of fill it out a little bit at the bottom there. But yep, just hold it while the glue sets, obviously. Don't want it coming apart. And yeah, that is a complete tree, basically. It doesn't look too bad. All right, as I said earlier, yeah, a few bits don't quite fit together, so you get your sharp knife out, or yeah, you know, this type of knife, I forget what it's called, and just slice away those bits. Some bits here didn't quite match up, so we'll just take those bits away, take that bit away. You know, you don't want to make it obvious like those really bad toys, you know, where you can obviously see where the mold marks are, like the big line that goes all the way around the toy. You don't want that, basically. But just do your best. The end product, you can still sort of see the line, but it gets better. Here I am just filling in a few of the gaps. So just pour the hot glue in there. If you put the nozzle right up to the thing, the nozzle shouldn't be hot enough. This is a cool temperature hot glue gun, so it doesn't get as hot as the other one. That's why I'm, you know, not screaming when I touch the hot glue. So yep, and that should just not burn the XPS foam, but also sort of get that in there. Don't burn XPS foam. It's not good for your lungs. Don't do that. Yeah, okay, so just get that there. And yeah, it looks all right. Let's just sort of keep them in there. And when you paint over it, you won't be able to tell the difference between what's tree and what's hot glue, you know. So we'll just do the bottom here. Just make sure that's all around there. And the good thing about these trees is they're so easy to make. Like, I think this took me all up maybe half an hour, maybe slightly more, maybe 45 minutes. They're so easy to make, so you can make a whole forest. So here we go. There is the base. I've done the black sort of card around. I also made just a stump that someone could have chopped down just to add a bit of extra scenery to the base because, you know, it's flat. I haven't done the whole dirt thing, so, you know, it might look a little bit weird. So that'll just go on there later, but that will also be painted up. Yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. I'll see you in the next step. Oh, and just a quick side note, I added these little bits of leftover foam at the bottom just because I don't like the big ugly hole that's left there. Yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. Right, and now on to painting the base. We are using the burnt umber again, as we did last time, and this is obviously using quite a bit of water, but not too much, just all on the trunk, on both trunks, on the, well, if you did a second trunk, that is. So you want to just do the same thing. For this one, I didn't do the wash just because there wasn't really enough trunk for it to really... I just didn't want to do it, really, is the thing. So I didn't do it. I just used the... Oh, I dropped it. Whoopsies. Whoopsie daisies. I did the bottom as well, just because you can sort of get it a bit nicked up. So here it is. I think it looks pretty good. There is the other one. They're both dry now. So, yeah, you know, they look all right. So let us get this color, whatever it's called, this color, the earthy color, as I'm going to call it from now on, and once again all over the tree. So we want to just go crazy because it is dry, so we don't need to worry about it getting, you know, not correctly applied or anything like that. So there we go. And now once that is done, we want to get the green. This is a dark green, darker than the other one because pine trees or fir trees, whatever you want to call them, are slightly darker in their color, and I just thought it sort of looked nice because I didn't want both the trees to have the exact same paint job because that would be boring and nobody wants to watch a boring video. So we're just applying this all over the tree. It will look really, really nice once it's finished. And I know that because I've seen the finished product. Alright, so I go ahead and I just cover the whole thing in this color. But while that's drying, let's give a little love to the base that we made. So it is very, very boring. And this is the simple one, so I'm not going to make tiny little plants. I'm going to go to a store and buy them. So I bought these. They are tiny little plants. And they're made of plastic. And they look okay for what they are. They're ferns and spruce trees or fir trees or, you know, whatever you want to call the trees that I'm making. They tend to sort of be surrounded by firs, or at least the pictures of them on the internet tend to be surrounded by firs, and that's what I'm going off. So, ferns. So what you want to do is sort of find a nice sort of, you know, where they are. I think they look all right. Just get a tiny little bit of hot glue, because if you get too much you'll see this big blobby bit at the bottom. So I really just put a tiny little bit because then, you know, no one's going to be smacking them, so they should be alright. Just apply them to the base. You know, just get both of them and they look alright. Once the finished product looks alright, I do paint them just with a lime just over the top, just a dry brushing. I probably wouldn't do that. But here is the finished product, all glued on. There is the tree. I go over it with a bit of a sort of a lime color as well. Slightly sort of the medium lime color, not too light, not too dark. I go over the leaves as I just said as well. But yeah, that is what it looks like. You can see the line, as I said, a little bit disappointed in that, but it's a quick tree, so it's not supposed to be amazing. But I think it works, you know. If somebody put this on the table, I would know straight away that is a tree. That is a piece of tree. So here is that one. This one took me about an hour and a half, and here is the other one, which took me about 3 hours. Yeah, 3 hours, I'd say. That's not including drying time. If I did include drying time, it would take me about 3 days. Almost, because some of the paints take a long time to dry. Here is a better look at the completed products. So as you can see, the leaves colours are slightly different. The one on the right is which is the fir tree, is a slightly darker colour for the leaves, and the other one is slightly lighter. Yep, slightly lighter up there. I like the more complicated tree just slightly more because it just looks nicer in my opinion. But you know, they're trees, and that's what this video is about: how to make some trees. So yeah, they look pretty good. If you learned something today, please drop a like, and if you really enjoy the content, please subscribe, because I try to upload one sort of crafting video weekly, and then 1 3-minute miniatures is also a weekly sort of event. So Normally, every 4 days or so, I'll post a new video. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video all about trees, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye for now.